Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. So today let's do the answers to the viewer questions, the personal questions. And lighting is not great today. I rely on natural lighting and it's pretty overcast, but this is probably the brightest it's going to be all day. So it might be like a noisy, sort of a staticky looking video, but oh well. And again, thank you for all the questions. I'm flattered that there's many subscribers and many questions as well. So we can do an entire video for personal questions. Okay, but first question, JPS2K15 asks, what's your favorite alcohol? And then first, I'll show you the one that I'm going to drink right now. But this is a Pernod. This is an anise flavored liquor, kind of a herbal thing. If you like black licorice, you'll like this. And I like this one because it's easy to drink. And because it's herbal, I like to pretend that it's good for my stomach. So what I do is I get a tall skinny glass, fill it with ice. And I do about that much at the bottom. And I get some flat water. And then you get kind of a milky looking thing. And I picked this one to drink for the video because I thought it was the most interesting looking. You could, get a stir stick or whatever, but... Yes, that's lovely. Doesn't go well with food too much, but good for a middle of the day or to end the day. But otherwise, well, I love beer. I love Japanese beer. I love Belgian beer. California has some nice microbreweries. I like the Rasputin Stout, I think it is. But for harder liquors, maybe the first harder liquor that I really liked was bourbon. I've showed this in a previous video, the Maker's Mark. I say that Maker's Mark is hit or miss depending on the bottle. This is kind of a miss, but it's not awful. I look forward to finishing this so I can get a different bourbon. And then, maybe my next big love after bourbon is tequila. Here's Don Julio. Any of the three types I love. The Blanco, or the Reposado, or the Anejo. There is the more known tequila brand, whose name I forget, but Don Julio I think is the better stuff. And then there's also a kind of a newer brand, 23. I think there's a more proper name for it, but I like those too. The Blanco especially, it's very reasonable, and it has a lot more depth than you would expect from a Blanco. Alright, next. This is a Japanese whiskey. Nikka from the barrel. I'm wondering if this has been hard to get lately, because sometimes I go to the shop, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. But this is a blend, and it's very nice. I know that Japanese whiskey is very popular right now, but this one's still pretty reasonable, and it's got a very cool looking bottle, just no funny business here. This tastes like a mix of bourbon and scotch. It's very interesting. It's a little bit sweet, but it's got a little bit of a smoke as well, so I like it. I like it a lot. I have another bottle right over there. And then speaking of scotch, last couple years I've been kind of making an effort to get into it. The thing about scotch though is that it's such like a big world. It's kind of intimidating to get into. It's like saying one day, I'm going to start liking jazz from today. Where the hell do you start? But I've been experimenting with different stuff. I recently finished off this bottle, the Glenlivet. This was surprisingly good. It's easy to drink, but it's still got all of that kind of scotchiness that you would want, so this might be a good one for beginners. This is an empty bottle. I was just hanging on to it for this video, but I'm going to throw it away after this. If you have just empty bottles in your place, just like as a decoration, I would say get rid of them. That's kind of tacky. It's much more cool to have full bottles decorating your place. But one of my more favorites is Lagavulin. This is what Ron Swanson drinks on Parks and Recreation. This one tastes like smoke and rubber tire, and yet it's really good, and I can't stop drinking it. But this is my second bottle in 2 years. I don't usually buy stuff in consecutive years, but that one's pretty good, so I like that. But please don't think that I am a drunkard. I usually have maybe 1, maybe 2 drinks a day, maybe 4 times a week, you know. I get tired of it pretty quickly. Like, the first beer that you have, you know, that tastes excellent, and then each beer after that you have just doesn't taste as good. Same thing goes for all these hard liquors. And I haven't been drunk in maybe 10 years, actually, so... Although I love alcohol, I don't drink that much. Okay, next I got a few questions about my thoughts on women. Maybe that was kind of worded weirdly in my previous video. But if you've seen my other unit reviews, like Miranda, people like that, you know, I have feelings about certain types of women. But overall, I love women, I love all women, I love them better than men, actually. And actually, I have an easier time talking to women than I do men. I feel much more comfortable with women, actually. As for my type, you know, I've been dropping hints in different videos about my ideal type of woman. To tell the truth, I do not have an ideal type. And I don't recommend that people have an ideal type, because all you're really doing is just kind of limiting who you might know, who you might date. I've certainly dated some people that I never believed that I would have when I was younger. But I guess if I could say, just in like one phrase, my ideal type of woman, it would be divorced women. The reason for that is because younger women, especially in Japan, they have kind of a, well, men and women, when they're younger, they have kind of a childish, more romantic view of relationships. And that can be fun, but it's not realistic, and it's not going to last. If you have two people, you know, engaging with each other on equal terms, and, you know, they're respecting each other, open with their emotions and motivations and things, then you can have a very fulfilling relationship, I think. Then that to me is the most important thing to look for in another person, is like if you can talk to them, and if you can think on the same level, you know? If you get the same sense of humor, if you laugh at the same stuff. Looks and stuff, you know, the older I get, the less I care about it. I have not dated lately. Part of the reason for that is because of where I live, it's butt-ass middle of nowhere. But I'm fine with that for now. I'll get married sometime, eventually. Okay, and then I got some questions asking what I do for a living. I'm not going to say, of course, but let's just say I don't bring my work home, and then I don't work weekends, so that's how I kind of have the time to make all of these videos and then play the games. I am a losery single guy with no obligations to anybody except for the tax man and my boss at work, so yeah, lots of free time here. Okay, next, I got some questions about my hat collection, so let's have a look at those. I showed these off before in previous question and answer videos, but here I think these are most of my MLB hats. These are the 5950, these are the ones with the very kind of a high crown. The hat that I'm wearing here, this is a low crown hat. I think you can see there, kind of fits the skull. But a high crown has much more volume in the front, so you can kind of see the difference there. And then I like to keep the brim straight, and then the stickers on there. I don't know, just kind of an affected thing. Keep my hats looking new. And then I like the ones without any logo on the front. Those are very easy to match with whatever you're wearing. I used to have more. But I left them back in the States the last time I moved. Not to get political, but I used to have an all-red one. Threw that one out. But since coming to Japan this time around, I picked up this one. It's a collaboration between New Era and Pendleton. I love Pendleton. I have some of their blankets and bags and stuff. But another reason why I like this is that this is made of a smooth kind of polyester, so for like hay fever season or something, I can wear this, and then the pollen will just, you know, it won't stick as much as like some of these more woolen hats. And then I also got this guy, Montreal Expos hat. I like it for the colors, but pretty much all Canadians I've ever met are very cool people, so yeah. Yeah, don't wear this a lot either, but oh well. Okay, and then I have this rain hat that I showed from before. This is a North Face. I like the string here. And then I have a couple of cold weather hats. This is a wool, navy blue wool bucket hat. In a pinch, I can wear this with the suit. Still pretty casual, but still kind of shapely enough that I could wear it with a suit. And then this is a knit cap. This is a Koei-chan knit cap from Canada. I forget the brand name. I have kind of a big head, so it's difficult to find my size, and even this one is kind of a little bit tight. So actually what I do is that I'll undo this part, and then I'll wear it like that. Or wear it like that if my ears are cold. And then this wool gauge is so low that it ends up very thick. And so, like, even when I wear it like this, it just stands up. It doesn't collapse. And when I wear it like this, I've had people ask me if, like, I have, like, dreadlocks all up in here. And I have to say, no, I don't. And then there's kind of like a button on top. That might be like, I like to think it's a whalebone or something. Alright. And then this is a hot weather hat. This is my Western hat. Made by Stetson, of course. I might have shown this off before, but yeah. This is good for hiking, for beach, if I'm going to be outside for a while. And then another hot weather hat. This is a Trilby, also Stetson. I'm a fan of Stetson. And this is less dramatic than a fedora, which has a very large brim. So that's what that looks like. And then my favorite hat, which I unfortunately never use, is this. This is a Puritan hat. Looks a bit like Wyatt Earp from that Tombstone movie. Also Stetson, of course. And then, yeah, just to prove that I have a big head, the size of this guy is 7 5/8, which is almost the max. But yeah, that's how that looks. Pretty cool, right? I need to wear this more, because when you wear hats, it'll conform to the shape of your head, but also as you sweat into it, the size of the hat will decrease a little bit. And this one's a little bit large, so if I wear it more and, shrink it with the sweat, that will help the fit. But it's hard to find a good occasion to wear this, and it's hard to style it as well, but I should just say screw it and just wear it anyway. So that's my hat collection. Okay, next I got a few questions about food. This might sound strange, but I don't love eating. Well, maybe that's not a surprise at all. Look at these skinny arms. But I love cooking. I know mostly Japanese recipes, but I also like stews, beef stew and cream stew. I had a very nice, I was working out a nice barbecue ribs recipe. That's not really possible anymore in Japan because houses here just don't have those big ovens. Favorite foods, I guess if we group them by like country, maybe most favorite food is Japanese, of course. Second favorite is Cuban food. I love Cuban food. What else? I love Mexican food. I love Indian food. Anything Mediterranean. Yeah, those are the foods that I like. Okay, next, I got a few... Hang on one second. Alright, I got a few questions about books. So I'll share what I have with me. One of my biggest regrets in life is not keeping a log of all of the books that I've ever read in my life and like how I felt about each one. I should start today, but I like to go back and reread books, either, just to enjoy the language or kind of reinforce like something that I learned from the book, but not having a list, I've forgotten all the books that I've read, so it's kind of like lost knowledge, which is too bad. But I'll show you comic books first. And this is kind of cheating, but this is called Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud. And then this is a comic book about comic books. And then like their unique power, their unique language, the way that they handle space and time. I love comics so much, and I reread this every, 2-3 years, just to kind of reinvigorate my love of comics. But yeah, I can highly recommend this book here. If you don't understand comics, or if you love comics, I think everybody could like this. And then, speaking of comics, I spoke about this earlier, but Nausicaa, this is my probably my most favorite fantasy epic, more than Game of Thrones, more than Lord of the Rings. This was a movie put out by Ghibli, but I totally recommend the comic more. But it's very epic. There's moral battles, there's religious battles, and then you have a heroine, a main heroine, who kind of reminds me of Joan of Arc. A historical figure that I really like. And then while we're talking about her, Mark Twain, he wrote a biography of Joan of Arc that I can recommend. Not many people know that, but it's a good book. It's not like his others. It's not funny. Some of my favorite American comics are, or was this run of Uncle Scrooge, the Life and Times of Uncle Scrooge. And then these are written and drawn by Don Rosa, who's kind of like the spiritual successor to Carl Barks. He's, kind of the main Disney guy from back in the day. But yeah, these are looking at the life of Uncle Scrooge before he became Uncle Scrooge. His travels around the world, trying to make his fortune. If all you know of Uncle Scrooge is DuckTales, that's cool, because DuckTales is great. But there's a lot more to him. I would say he's the most interesting, most complex Disney character out there. And then for manga, I like lots of manga, but I recently picked up this. This is the full set of Knights of Sidonia by Nihei Tsutomu. And Nihei Tsutomu, I'll buy anything that he puts out. I guess he started out as an architect. He went to school in Italy, I think, for architecture. But then later he moved to drawing comics. And then his art style is very rough. And there's lots of black. Lots and lots of black. Yeah, there's some of the architecture training coming in there. And then, of course, also very typical of Japanese manga, where there's lots of silence. Lots of panels where nothing happens. But it really sets up a mood. Something that maybe American comics don't do as well. But one interesting thing about Shidonia no Kishi, this set here, he starts out with that same kind of mostly black aesthetic, but halfway through, he goes to mostly white, actually. It's very shocking. And then his drawing style becomes more cross-hatchy, and it ends up looking a lot like Nausicaa. So it's a weird kind of a, weird arc that the artist went on, but something I'm very interested and grateful to see. Alright, so that is comics. Next, let's talk about prose. I don't have all of my favorite books with me, but I recently read this, Cormac McCarthy. I love American authors like, Hemingway and Steinbeck and those guys. But yeah, Cormac McCarthy, I've also read The Road by him. And then my brother, he said something funny about The Road. Every page makes you want to kill yourself. Kind of a similar deal here. Very, very brutal book, but really powerful as well. If they made a movie of this, I don't know if I would watch it. And then I also read the first 2 books of the trilogy of a biography of Theodore Roosevelt by Edmund Morris. These are excellent books. Very good for biographies, but just beautiful writing as well. Everything feels so alive, you know, just the days and then the places and the people in there. Really, really vivid. And then I haven't read the 3rd book yet. But apparently Theodore Roosevelt, he had the most interesting post-presidency life of any president. And again, not to get political, but Theodore Roosevelt was a real Republican. Okay, next, I got a bunch of questions asking about my heritage and living in Japan and the United States. So I guess I can give you like a super simplified rundown of my background. My dad is Anglo-American, my mom is Japanese, born in Japan. Growing up, I spoke only English. I had to learn Japanese myself later in life, which is why I have a very strong American accent. And then I lived in both countries on and off, and I was always trying to kind of decide like which country I wanted to settle down in. It took me a while. And then that can be a thing for people of mixed race. You know, some people that are of mixed race, you know, they don't lean too heavily to one side or the other. My brother, which I keep mentioning, he's kind of like that. But me, I really, really gravitated towards the Japanese side of me. And so I think I finally come to the decision that I do want to live here for the rest of my life. I do still have an American passport. If I wanted to get Japanese citizenship, I'd have to give up my American citizenship. And that's a very tough decision for me to make because I love America, I love being an American. But my manner, I think it better fits Japan. And then also I just kind of feel more relaxed and more at home in Japan. It's strange because my English is much better than my Japanese, and yet that's how I feel. My mom probably thinks I'm crazy because I'm sure she left Japan because she was fed up and like fell in love with America. With me it was the opposite. Michael Podgorski asked, can you recount 2 memories, one from the States, one from Japan? From the States, a few years ago I made a trip to like Arizona, Utah, Nevada, that area, and that area is just beautiful. Super duper red, and then the scale is just amazing. We went and we saw the rock structures, like the arches and all that, and it's so beautiful and so quiet and very flat in some places. You can be going 100 miles per hour in a car, and like just the road is flat and you can see the horizon line and nothing's changing. You don't feel any sense of speed at all. It's very uncanny. And then from Japan, I lived in Hokkaido for some years. That's the northern snowy island. But there too, just incredibly beautiful landscapes, but also really good food, nice people. Yeah, I miss Hokkaido. One other thing that I remember about wanting to live in Japan is that I like fashion very much. I like men's fashion. And then the way that they think about fashion is very different than it is in the States. Like in this country, I feel like I can wear what I want, and then people won't judge me for it. Or if they do judge me for it, it's like they respect me more for putting the effort in. It's a different way of thinking about fashion. And then that kind of, that's kind of like a hint for my future plans for YouTube. I would like to start a channel about fashion, maybe talking about the differences between the Japanese mindset and then the Western mindset. And then showing off my clothes and my thoughts about different styles and fashions and things. So yeah, in a way I feel like I can be more myself in Japan. Okay, I think that does it for the big questions. Now we'll get into more individual ones. Toby Neville asks, what did you study in university and college? I studied, well, my major was English literature, with focuses on Shakespeare, a little bit of Milton and Chaucer in there as well, and then pre-Civil War American literature. So like Poe, Hawthorne, Melville, Puritan writings, stuff like that. But I did study some Japanese literature as well. So yeah, I love language, I love English, I love Japanese, and lately I've been thinking a lot about translation. I don't want to do that for a living, but it's really interesting to study. So when I make my rant videos about the translation about War of the Visions, you can believe what I say. Okay, Brusur Topana, I hope I say that right. Give me one advice of life. That's a big question. I guess the first thing that comes to mind is to not aim for happiness. Let happiness happen. And then the way that happiness can happen is I found that it's most likely to come when you're doing something that you enjoy. So try lots of different things, and then find something that you like and that you're good at. And then if you can be doing that, either as your job or as your hobby, I think that will lead to more happiness. So that can be a good way to think about life. Okay, Marc-Andre Thibodeau Genest, oh god, I hope I said that right, asks, do you like French? Yes, I do. I would like to learn another language, and French is one of the ones that I consider. If I were to consider learning another language, it would be really helped if I were really interested by that language's pop culture, because pop culture can really help you learn a language. Learning Japanese was very much assisted by anime and manga and YouTube and all that. And then France, too, they have a nice pop culture, a long history there as well, both with music and film and also comic books. So that would be a language I'd like to learn. I'd also like to learn Spanish. I feel like I could go so many places if I learned Spanish, and that's a beautiful language as well, so I would like to learn those too. I have a question for people that speak 3 or more languages. I have a hunch that this is something that is true, but once you learn one second language or one foreign language, it becomes easier to learn ones after that, because you kind of learn what sort of mindset or what way of thinking that you need to be in order to learn a foreign language. Let me know if that's true, because that might encourage me to learn a third language. Okay, Sammy asks, your thoughts on the difference between Eastern and Western fashion. A lot of it has to do with the way they think about it. In Japan, at least, they love Western fashion, they love American fashion, they like Italian fashion as well. But the way they come at it is different. They're very methodical, and they really take a lot of history into consideration as well. Those are topics that I would like to talk about in my fashion channel, if that ever gets off the ground. Okay, Johnny Awesome asks, have you ever played or been interested in other hobbies, like Magic or Dungeons & Dragons? Yes, to both of them. Magic the Gathering, I played 4th edition way back in the day, so I have a soft spot for white banner cards. Dungeons & Dragons I played as well. That might have been 3rd edition, I think it was, so yeah, pretty old stuff. I do love all of that stuff, but unfortunately there are not any people around me that play them right now. Alright, Sarah Fixe, I hope I'm saying that right. What sources and materials can you recommend for someone wanting to learn Japanese? I would say YouTube. And then what I would recommend is that you take like an existing hobby that you have. It could be gardening, it could be motorcycles, whatever. Find a YouTube channel that talks about that topic, but in the language that you want to learn. Because you'll know a lot of the words anyway, and so you'll have that kind of like foundation to stand on, and then from there you can learn, sentence structure and verbs and things like that. So I think YouTube would be a good way. When I got fairly good at Japanese, I moved back to the States at that time, and I knew I was going to, my Japanese level was going to go down because I didn't have anybody to talk to but my mom. So I watched a lot of YouTube of Japanese YouTubers, and that really helped me keep my Japanese up, so very grateful to YouTube. Alright, John Slack asks, who is one of your favorite music artists, both Japan and English? I'm glad you asked for only one, because I can make an entire video about my music collection. But I have listened to music very, very fanatically since I was in junior high, I think. It started with my mom's cassette tape collections. I had 3. One was Elvis, one was Beatles, one was Mozart. I went from there. But lately of, Western music, I've been listening to Black Sabbath and Iggy Pop. I love those guys. I love reggae, about the 60s reggae. Still listen to Mozart a lot. I like his piano sonatas done by Glenn Gould. But Baja I've been listening to a lot lately as well. Also, 103.7. I've been liking his music a lot too. And then on the JP side, unfortunately, there hasn't been a lot of recent music that I've been liking. But Shina Ringo, she was great. She still is great, of course, but she was great. And then Yukawa Shione, I don't know what she's been doing lately, but she's like a folk singer. Very beautiful voice. Okay, Luke VNO asks, have you ever considered learning poker? My father and my brother love poker. I don't love it as much as them, but through them I know like how to play, and all that. I'm not much of a gambling man. That might sound ridiculous coming from somebody playing a gacha game, but I am aware of the game and I respect it, but I don't know if I would pursue it as a hobby. Okay, Ishan Dutta Gupta asks, where on earth does that thing where you clap your hands together and say Onagai come from? This is the traditional way that you pray at a Japanese temple. You go up to the building, and then they have the box that you throw the money into, and then what you do is that you clap in order to get the attention of the gods, and then you bow to them, and then you make your wish, and then you bow again, and then you leave. And then where the one hand comes from is when your other hand is busy. That's all that is. Okay, Gamma Fighter asks, do you have any other Japanese hobby? Of all of the traditional Japanese arts and practices, I guess the one that I am familiar with is how to put on a kimono, which makes sense because I love clothes so much. But yeah, it takes lessons to put on a kimono. It took me about a half year of lessons before I became really good at it. And actually, I joined a competition, like a kimono putting on competition, and I went to the national finals actually. And yeah, you get on stage, you got your kimono and your hakama poofy pants in front of you, and they go bang, they set the timer, and then you try to put on everything as quickly as possible and as cleanly as possible. And yeah, that was a very unique experience. Kimono is so complicated to put on that most people just hire somebody to put it on for them, and then they go do their thing for the day, and then come back to their teacher and take off the kimono. But I'm able to put it on myself, so that's kind of a point of pride with me. Okay, Zoray asks, what are some non-gaming channels that you are subscribed to on YouTube? I think the one that I would recommend most are the Omega Sisters. They are virtual YouTubers. They're Japanese. A lot of their videos have English subtitles though, so you can watch those. And they are just weird and funny. The one with the blue hair is kind of the straight man, and then the one with the pink hair is kind of the goofball. But they switch roles back and forth depending on what they're talking about. The one in blue hair, she loves Yu-Gi-Oh cards, for example, and she'll go crazy about that and nerd out. But then the pink-haired one will act like the adult and tell the blue one to stop buying so many Yu-Gi-Oh cards and settle down.
いや、大体デッキを組むときはね、増字とかうらら、無限包容、墓穴の指名者とかはね、必ずね、足りなくなる。あ、そうだね。そう。それがね、全部入ってるんですよ。コナミさん、ありがとうございます。さっきからなんなんそれ。このボックスはね、マジでね、買えば買うほどアドなんですね。買えば買うほどすぐにね、売り切れちゃうからすごいね。マジでアドしかないから。でもさ、買った時点でお金って使ってますからね。そのカードをさ、売らない。買っていきましょう。
Yeah, they're very, very cool. And I'm very interested in the idea of virtual YouTubers because it gives people maybe that would want to stay anonymous a way to get into YouTube and then create like an avatar, maybe something that they could relate to, or maybe other people could relate to as well. Okay, last question will come from Howard Clark. You are the champion because you asked the most questions. I'll answer just one. Are there any games you're looking forward to this year? I am going to try out the Nier mobile game. So when that comes out, I will maybe make a couple videos about that. Don't plan on playing it long time, but we'll see what happens. I like the look of the game, so yeah. Okay, so that'll do it for the personal Q&A video. Once again, thanks for all of the questions. It was fun to do this. Maybe we'll do another one when I get to 20,000 subscribers, God forbid. Alright, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.